My name is Kristen Dollar. I am the Director of Programs here at Just Faith Ministries, and with me is Leela Oakley, who is our Outreach and Engagement Associate, and she'll say a little bit more about herself here in a few minutes. I thought we would go ahead and start with some prayer and some brief reflection. We actually just both attended an event by, I don't know if you've heard of Austin Channing Brown, but she's a phenomenal author who we include in our racial justice series. And she encouraged us to continue to ask why we do the work that we do. And so I thought we would just take a couple minutes to do exactly that right now. So I just want to take a minute to consider a social issue that breaks your heart. Maybe it could be unsafe and inadequate housing that you've seen when you're driving through your community. Maybe it's environmental degradation and a place that you love to visit. Maybe you've heard a loved one talk about their experience with racism in their church or their workplace. Maybe it's something you've experienced yourself. So just take a minute to sit with that. And if you want to say it out loud or put it in the chat, you're welcome to do that. What breaks your heart? What is it that it breaks your heart? So now I want us to envision the people in our communities, our friends, our neighbors, people in our places of worship, coming together to do something about this issue. Just take a moment to imagine what this might look like. How might it make you feel? A reading from Isaiah 40:3-5. A voice of one calling in the wilderness. Prepare the way for the Lord, make straight in the desert a highway for our God. Every valley shall be raised up, every mountain and hill made low. The rough ground shall become level, the rugged places a plain. And the glory of the Lord will be revealed, and all the people will see it together, for the mouth of the Lord has spoken.
Holy God, we pause to center ourselves in your presence. As the sand shifts around us, as culture clashes, and as each side dehumanizes the other, we stand firmly on the rock of your salvation. As we breathe in, we notice stillness that surrounds us. As we breathe out, we release our anxiety unto you.
God of grace, we pause to celebrate our interconnectedness with one another, with those who share our thirst for justice, and with those who think very differently than we do. Regardless of political parties, regardless of our theological convictions, and regardless of our differing priorities, we honor the ties that bind us together as one family. As we breathe in, we receive God's unconditional love. And as we breathe out, we pour out God's love onto others.
Creator of all things, we pause to celebrate our interconnectedness with the earth. An oak tree captures carbon dioxide from the air and releases it as oxygen we breathe. Wild berries provide joy and sustenance for humans and other animals who return their gifts by dispersing their seeds. A handful of soil contains more microorganisms than there are people on the face of our planet, tiny beings that sustain human life. As we breathe in, we honor our oneness with all of creation. As we breathe out, we release our loneliness and isolation.
God of compassion, cleanse us of the poisonous anger and self-righteousness that eats away at our own souls, our relationships, and the justice work we seek to accomplish. We lay down our resentments and commit to seeking justice through nonviolent words and actions. As we breathe in, we inhale compassion. As we breathe out, we release our bitterness.
God of hope, We give to you the cynicism that paralyzes us from action. Help us hold on to your promise that every valley shall be lifted up and every hill made low. We open our hands to receive a new understanding of our own calling and vocation. And we ask for your guidance as we face this historic moment. As we breathe in, we are filled with hope. As we breathe out, we release our cynicism.
Loving God, as we continue throughout our time together, we ask that you continue to be present with us, filling us with hope, surrounding us with love, and restoring us with your peace. Amen. All right. Welcome again. So glad that both of you are here with us. Are you all, just a question to kind of get a sense of where you are you all new to Just Faith Ministries? Have you ever taken a program with us?
I'm on your mailing list, and I don't think I've taken a course. I'm signed up, I think, for the environment, eco-justice, or I don't know. That I've been interested in your courses and trying to, for my own parish, I'm in Louisville. I attend St. Margaret Mary, and just trying to bring awareness to social justice and things. But it's a touchy subject. So
I understand. That's what we're here for.
And Kristen, Stephen sent me a note letting me know that they're at the office and the video and audio is not working. They can hear, but can't add to the conversation. So you're invited to respond in the chat, or Kristen, you can just go ahead and keep going forward.
Yeah, for sure. Don't want to put anybody in the spot either. Usually we have more people at our presentations, but we thought it was it was just great to have a more intimate conversation with you all here. So just a little bit about us. We seek to provide participants, our audience, a place to create community, to grow spiritually, and equip people to seek justice. We work with a wide variety of folks from differing theological perspectives and political opinions. The way that our programs work is that the facilitators, we usually recommend 2 facilitators who recruit people from their own networks to engage in a small group dialogue around the topic. And of course, today we're talking about engagement of organizing and advocacy. So that's just a little bit about who we are. Here's just kind of a list of the other programs we offer, just to so that you can know about some of the other topics that we cover as well. The only one that's not self-explanatory is the Just Faith series, which we offer that it really focuses in on poverty in our local communities and how we can stand in solidarity with people experiencing poverty. We offer one program that's specifically for Catholic audiences and another program for ecumenical audiences. But the rest of these programs, you can kind of see from the names what they're about. And of course, today we are focusing on JustEngagement, which equips small groups for advocacy and grassroots organizing, no matter what issue they decide to address. So this program prepares folks to change laws and systems that trap people in poverty, desecrate God's creation, perpetuate injustice of many kinds. And this program trains small groups to faithfully and effectively build a more just and peaceful world. So I'm just going to take you through some of the sessions so you can really get a sense of the content of this program. We begin with an introduction to each other and to the topic of advocacy. This is session 1. We look at a video and a biblical reflection activity. And the idea is to really define what biblical justice is and what it looks like so that they can envision what they are working toward. Session 2 gets into what is advocacy. It looks at different forms of faith-rooted advocacy so that folks can identify where exactly they feel called to use their gifts and their skills. And of course, they'll continue this conversation throughout the program, but it's introduced here. Between sessions 1 and 2, there's an optional one-day retreat. Kind of the hope for this program is, well, it's great if folks can engage in advocacy and organizing as individuals, but it's also wonderful if they can do that as a small group and work together to accomplish, to make some change in their community. And the retreat is a really great way to bond and to lay that foundation of relationships that will be helpful, not only in this program, but hopefully afterwards. The recommended time for the retreat is 6 hours, but you could shorten that if you wanted to. Then session 3 looks at social movements and their power to affect change. It looks at social movements in the past and in the present. It looks at their strategies and models for creating effective organizing and creating change. For example, some strategies are solidarity, which we engage in no matter what our strategy is, but also storytelling, voting, and collective power. How do you go about these things? What do you feel called to do in your community? That's what session 3 is about. Session 4 is about power mapping and influencing decision makers. So we engage in an exercise to, number 1, identify who has power in the community to address the issue that you care about. And then number 2, to come up with creative ways to influence people in positions of power and to make sure that your message and your voice is heard. Session 5, you'll hear from a guest speaker for the first part of the session. We think it's really important to connect folks with who are on the ground doing this work already, to learn from their strategies, and they can also give you some really great ideas of how exactly you and your community can plug into this work. So the guest speaker is one opportunity to do that. The facilitators and the group are responsible for setting up that guest speaker. And we recommend I would recommend if you are, most of you folks are from the same area, finding someone within your local community. But there's also the option to meet with someone from across the nation who is doing this really great work through Zoom or video conferencing. And then during the second part of session 5, you'll return to that important theme of biblical justice. And there's a small group exercise to look at the strategies and the priorities and the messages of biblical figures such as the psalmist, the prophets, and Jesus. There are really some great strategies that biblical figures used, and we want to learn from their models. Session 6 is the role of faith leaders and faith communities in creating social change. This is really based on Walter Brueggemann's really famous book called The Prophetic Imagination, which has inspired faith-based organizing movements and influence strategies for a while now. And through a small group movement, the small groups will, a small group activity, the participants will learn tools for changing systems and structures that are based on the wisdom of the prophets. Like a lot of times I think that we can almost over spiritualize our faith when, spirituality is an important, crucial component, but there's also some really concrete examples that the prophets give us for how we can go about creating change in here and now. Then after that, between session 6 and 7, there's an opportunity for an immersion experience in the local community. And if your group is meeting virtually, you do that virtually too. This is an opportunity to, again, connect with folks who are doing this work on the ground. You can attend an organizing meeting. You can, you could invite a second guest speaker to give you some more training on this issue. There's a variety of things that you can do to immerse your group in the work of organizing and advocacy. And then after that, session 7 is self-care for the social justice advocate. Inevitably, this is hard emotional work, this work of advocacy and organizing, and self-care is crucial. There are going to be times when we are going to feel frustration, anger, hopelessness, anxiety, and this walks participants through some basic psychological principles and gives folks some ideas for spiritual practices they can use to navigate this. Certainly, this is going to be something that they're going to need to continue to practice on their own, but this give some folks some ideas of how they can begin to do that and what some resources are for that. And then the final session, session 8, helps individuals and the small group discern their action steps. They make plans for getting started. And the hope is that they will continue, that main goal of this work is they will continue in creating change, and they'll be more equipped to create change in whatever issue they are really passionate about. These are just some components of really all of our programs, including this one. The only one that's not necessarily in all of our programs, there's not necessarily a retreat in every single one of our programs, but this one does have an optional retreat. Each session begins and ends with prayer. There are spiritual practices that folks can try out between each of the sessions. Holy conversation is really crucial, and I think this is honestly like a radical thing that we do here at Just Faith Ministries. Engage in these really important conversations among a lot of times like a diversity of perspectives. It's not something that is done nearly enough in our really polarized world. And I've been just shocked at the ways that groups are able to navigate these important issues of justice that they have been fearful about addressing through holy conversation. And so we provide folks with some guidelines and some facilitator training on how to set up that space for holy conversation. This program provides some practical tools for organizing and advocacy. This is what this program is all about. The immersion experience, again, the opportunity to visit a place in your local community, attend an organizing meeting, to meet with folks who have been involved in this work and to learn models and practices from people on the ground. The guest speaker is an important component as well in session 5. And then, of course, there's the optional retreat. Here are the books that are included in the program: Faith-Rooted Organizing, Mobilizing the Church in Service to the World, and Live Justly. People really like these books, and they're really just practical and easy to read as well. We also include articles and videos throughout the program that are included both within the session. Like, for example, you might watch a TED Talk or a short YouTube video in the session. And there's articles and sometimes a video that folks might watch between the session. But those are just some of the resources that are included. And now I'm going to turn it over to Leela to tell you about some of what to expect and some logistical information for the programs.
Great, thank you, Kristen. So as Kristen said, I'm Leela Oakley, I'm the Outreach and Engagement Manager, and my primary role with Just Faith Ministries is to support people like yourselves who are learning about a program, discerning if it's a good fit for their community, and then walking alongside facilitators as they go about planning for the program offering, and then actually facilitate it in their community. So moving forward, if you have any questions, if you want to talk further about this program or any of our other programs, please don't hesitate to reach out. So what can you expect with Just Faith Ministries programs? These are true of almost every one of our programs, including JustEngagement. It's designed for a small group, which means that it's designed for between 7 to 14 individuals to engage together on this journey. We recommend probably 7 to 12 if you're going to be meeting virtually via Zoom, because a smaller number is just better suited for the virtual platform. Our programs can be done both virtually and in person. So they can also be done in a hybrid format where possibly the group meets in person for the retreat to have that time together, building relationship with one another, but meets virtually the rest of the sessions for convenience. So that's also the third option there. The program is 8 sessions in length. There's a 9th meeting, which is that immersion experience. Most groups meet over the course of 8 or 9 weeks and have the immersion experience either as its own separate week or in between sessions. As Kristen said, the program includes an optional retreat and immersion experience, which is true for most of our other programs. The program has 2-hour-long sessions with an optional 30 minutes for in-person programs. And those 2 hours are really intense, meaningful time together. So the group comes together away from the busyness of regular life to gather in a sacred space to learn and to grow together. In between each session, there are weekly assignments that include readings from the books that Kristen just referenced, possibly a video or an article. And those are to be done between session and take on average about an hour, maybe a little over an hour to complete. So as you're considering promoting this program, that would be an important detail to let potential participants know that there is that outside of session time commitment. So what does a session look like? Each session is going to be unique because it has different components in the session, but on average, you can expect a session to look like what I have before you, which is beginning and ending with prayer, a time for conversation around a video or an article or an activity. There's a break and an announcement period, as well as discussion from the readings that week, or maybe from the video that was watched for the weekly assignment, so that there's wisdom to be gained from the resources themselves, but also wisdom to be gained in conversation with the rest of the small group. How to get started. If you are interested in this program or one of our other programs, the first step is to register for the program. That gives you access to the material to begin planning and preparing. This program is $225 per group, and that gives your group access to the program for an entire year. So if you are a church community, you could purchase the program once and then run multiple small groups within that registration over the course of a year. The only additional fee is the cost of books per participant. We are planning to change our registration model in the coming year, but that will be announced well in advance by us organizationally, so that registration fee and model will look a little bit different in the future. But for now, that's our current model. Once you've registered and you've accessed the materials through our online platform, you can begin some of the logistical planning. So identifying how you want to meet, virtually, in person, or some kind of hybrid model. Who are going to be the facilitators? As Kristen mentioned earlier, we recommend having 2 co-facilitators per small group to gather the small group, to plan the logistical elements, as well as facilitate the sessions. We have training available for facilitators to support them in that process. You'll then want to identify a start date and then begin the fun work of recruiting and promoting the program to participants in your community. We have a promotion kit for every program that we offer, which gives resources like social media posts, bulletin announcements, email texts, program images for social media that help to spread the word about the program and to invite people on the transformation